Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I walked into the house on Christmas Eve thinking we'd heat up leftovers and crash on the couch. Just me and Tabi. That was our plan. The lights were on, the table was set like a stage magazine shoot, and my chair, was already taken. The guy sitting in it wore a blazer and cologne I could smell from the doorway. He leaned over and kissed Helen on the cheek like he paid rent. She didn't even flinch, just looked over her shoulder and smiled like she'd won something. "Drake," she said, like I was supposed to clap. "Sit tight." Her parents, Roderick and Callista Wyman, were posted up at the head of the table. Matching sweaters, matching scowls. They watched me like I was late to a meeting I was never invited to. Tabi was still tugging off his boots when I said, "What's going on?" Helen stepped forward like she was hosting an open house. "This is my house, Martin. My parents gave it to me. You don't live here anymore." Quick note. Before we start, share in the comments how's your day going and where are you joining from. Thanks. And let's continue. I just stood there, cold air still on my jacket. "You want to back up and explain that?" She folded her arms. "I married you because I thought you'd inherit something. Real money. But all you had was a dusty old shack and a prenup. Your son isn't my responsibility." Tabi paused mid-step. His backpack slid off his shoulder. Drake tilted his head and looked at my hands, still stained from mural work I'd finished that morning. "So urban painting, does that cover a mortgage?" Callista gave a little laugh. "Art is a hobby, dear. We all go through phases." I didn't rise to it. I didn't give them the show they wanted. Roderick raised his glass like a judge hitting a gavel. "Let's call it a practical separation." "A what?" I said. Helen didn't blink. "You need to pack your things and leave. Tonight, Martin." Tabi looked up at me, his voice small but trying to be brave. "Guess we get the leftovers, Dad." He didn't cry, just gripped my hand like it was the only real thing left in the room. Helen pulled out the prenup, still in its shiny leather folder. She didn't even sit down. No claim on me. No claim on this house. And no claim on my time. I turned and walked toward the stairs. "Tabi, grab your coat," she added over her shoulder. "Tell your art friends I wish them luck." I didn't answer. I packed what we had in 2 bags. I carried them downstairs while Tabi zipped his jacket with shaking hands. The door hit the frame like a closing statement. As I buckled him into the back seat, I saw Drake slide into my chair and reach for the carving knife. I shut the door and didn't look back. The roads were quiet. The kind of quiet that only happens when people are too full and too content to notice a man getting kicked out of his own house. Tabi stared out the window, then asked, "Will Santa know where we're going?" "Yeah," I told him. "He'll know." I didn't have a plan. Just an address and an old house no one wanted. But it had my name on it. And tonight, that was going to be enough. The front door stuck like it hadn't been opened in months. I shoved it with my shoulder, and the frame groaned before giving way. Tabi walked in first, flashlight swinging side to side. "It smells like history class," he said, which wasn't wrong. Dust, cold air, and the faint memory of wood smoke hung like old wallpaper. The place was big, high ceilings, wide hallways, solid bones, but everything sagged just enough to feel forgotten. I flicked the light switch. Nothing. Tabi tapped his fingers on the wall and said, "Maybe the ghosts still pay the bills." The furnace tried to come to life with a low cough and died before we even got upstairs. I stood there in the kitchen, staring at the pilot light, thinking of all the things I didn't know how to fix. "Can we camp indoors?" Tabi asked, rubbing his hands together. "Like when we had that blackout last winter?" "Yeah," I said. Just like that. We unrolled sleeping bags on the living room floor, layered up, and tried to pretend the cold wasn't chewing on our bones. Tabi cupped his breath and whispered, "This echo makes us sound famous." That grin of his, still holding the line, cut straight through me. I stepped outside and looked toward the one porch with lights on. The house next door had lace curtains and a dim kitchen lamp burning like someone was still up waiting on tea. I knocked once, then twice. I almost turned back when I heard the latch turn. The door opened just enough for me to see a woman's eyes. Sharp, assessing. She looked past me and saw Tobby shivering behind my leg. "You stay," she said, voice clipped but kind. "Tonight, no arguments." I followed her in before she could change her mind. Warmth wrapped around us like a quilt. The air smelled like honey, black tea, and something baked. She moved fast. 2 mugs out, blankets tossed over a worn couch, slippers dropped at our feet like she'd rehearsed this for years. "I'm Valeria," she said, pouring hot chocolate for Tobby and tea for me. "You are Gregory's boy." I blinked. "Yeah, Martin. This is Tobias." "Tobby," my kid corrected, clutching the mug like it held more than cocoa. Valeria gave a little nod and settled into the kitchen chair across from us. "You look like him," she said, "but you carry something different. He moved like he owned the ground. You walk like you're still asking permission." I didn't answer. I looked around her house instead. Every wall was covered in pencil sketches and watercolor scraps. Faces, trees, windows, hands, practice sheets pinned like reminders that effort counts. "You're an artist," I said. "Teacher first," she replied. "Back in Ukraine. Now I just paint when it's too cold to weed the yard." I told her about Gregory selling the business late, how all I got was that big house falling apart next door. She didn't say sorry. She just nodded like someone who knew what houses could carry. "He gave you more than he gave most," she said. "Now the test begins." Before I could ask what she meant, Tobby yawned wide and leaned against me. He was asleep sitting up, cocoa half finished. Valeria pulled a quilt from the rack behind her, tucked it around him without a word, then handed me another. She didn't tell me to rest. She just turned off the kitchen light and left the hallway lamp on, humming something soft as she moved away. I lay there on her couch, Tobby curled under my arm, the wind scraping against the windows like it was looking for a way in. My dad's voice echoed in my head, something he'd said the winter before he died. "Take care of the foundation first. Everything else is cosmetic." In the morning, I woke up to the smell of rye toast and the quiet sound of someone singing in a language I didn't know. The hymn was low and warm, and for a second I didn't remember where I was. Then I looked over and saw Tobby still bundled, hair stuck to his forehead, breathing easy. I hadn't seen him sleep that deep since last spring. Valeria handed me a plate without asking what I wanted. Toast, a boiled egg, and pickled beets. "Breakfast for workers," she said. "Not for thinking." I didn't argue. I ate while she scribbled something onto a floral notepad, tore it off, and folded it once before placing it in my coat pocket. "My daughter will come today," she said. "Maria. She works with paint, murals, interiors, exteriors. She will walk your house and tell you what still breathes." I raised an eyebrow. "I thought you said the test begins." She gave a tight smile. "Maria does not like when things go to waste. If something is worth saving, she helps. If not, she throws it out. We'll see what you are." Tobby stirred and blinked at the light. "Is that toast?" he mumbled. "2 slices, Valeria said. "You eat like a bird. That must stop." He grinned and sat up like he belonged there. By the time we left, she had packed a thermos of tea, wrapped another quilt around our bag, and tapped my chest as I stepped off her porch. "You call if the house argues with you," she said. "Or if you do." I nodded and started toward our yard. The cold hit harder in daylight, but it didn't sting as much. I looked at the place my dad left me. Chipped paint, broken porch light, sagging eaves, and for the first time, I didn't just see a ruin. I saw a question. I gripped Tobby's shoulder and opened the front door. "All right," I said. "Let's find out what this place is made of." The front gate squeaked once before a beat-up work van pulled up. Maria Timoshenko stepped out like she was already in the middle of the job. No hellos, no hesitation, just a roll of drop cloth over her shoulder, a tape measure on her hip, and a canvas tool bag in one hand. Her eyes scanned the house like it owed her answers. She didn't waste time. "Maria," she said, "or just Mary." "Where's the main breaker?" she asked. "Back of the kitchen," I said. We walked the place, room by room. She scribbled notes, knocked on studs, checked outlets, pulled at seams in the baseboards. "This wiring's not original. Someone tried to modernize cheap. Dangerous if ignored," she said, then added, "Heat's your first battle. After that, safe sleep space for the kid. Rest is noise." I nodded. No small talk, no sympathy, just tasks and order. While she was testing plugs with a little red tool that beeped like a heartbeat monitor, I tore up what was left of the living room carpet. Damp, moldy, probably older than me. I hauled it out to the porch and caught her glancing at my hands. "You paint oil," she said. "You're gonna need ventilation, and drop cloths, real ones, the kind that doesn't bleed through." "Got it," I said. Felt like I was back in school. A few hours in, Valeria showed up holding a dented metal pot with both hands. "Soup," she announced. "No work on an empty stomach. It's criminal." She didn't stay long. Just handed me the pot, kissed her daughter on the cheek, and told me, "Don't let her forget to rest. She forgets." We took a break on overturned crates. Tobby had found an old easel in the attic, dusty, tilted, and missing one screw, but still standing. He wiped it down like it was a rescued animal. "Looks like it misses you," he said. I didn't answer, just looked at the warped wood and remembered the last time I'd used one like it. Maria came back from her van with a little girl trailing behind her, about 9, round face, light hair in a sloppy braid, sneakers that lit up when she walked. The kid looked around like she was cataloging everything for later. "This is Lily," Maria said. "She won't slow us down." "I'm Tobby," my son said, waving like a goof. They were friends by minute 5. Drawing dinosaurs and dragons on scrap cardboard with Sharpies, Maria kept in a plastic caddy. At some point I heard Lily say, "Dogs dream in color," and Tobby go, "That's not proven." They argued like they'd known each other for years. Maria handed me a rough diagram with shaded blocks and scribbled notes. "Primer goes here. Bedroom and bathroom get fixed first. Heat's non-negotiable. We start there, or we don't start." "Where do I get all this?" I asked. She rattled off a store 3 towns over that sold secondhand building supplies. "If they try to charge retail, ask for Javier. Say Valeria sent you." I told her about Helen in 5 sentences. She didn't ask for 6, just gave a small nod and said, "We keep the work moving." By mid-afternoon, Lily wandered into the back hallway and found the blank west wall, 10 feet wide, untouched, raw plaster. She stood in front of it like it was a screen waiting for a movie. "Can this be a mural?" she asked. Maria looked at me, one brow raised, no smile, just waiting to see what I'd say. "Maybe," I said, but that wall already looked hungry. Later, I took one of my small urban pieces, Skyline at Dusk, painted months ago, and walked it down to a diner that still had a local artist's wanted sign taped to their window. They bought it for $80 and a week of coffee. It wasn't much, but it paid for groceries and felt honest. Back at the house, we had 2 working space heaters, one sealed bedroom, and a dry place for the kids to sit and draw. Maria patched drywall like a surgeon and let me roll the primer once I stopped asking questions. Dusk settled in early, cold pushing at the windows again. I boiled water on the stovetop to keep the air damp, just like Valeria told me. The steam fogged the kitchen window, and for a second, it didn't feel like a ruin anymore. Maria packed up her gear, called Lily to get her things, and paused at the front door. "We start early," she said, straightening her coat. "Don't make me be the one who's on time." I leaned against the frame and said, "I'll beat you here." She didn't smile, but I saw her eyes change just a little before she stepped off the porch. The next week, One of Helen's campaigns popped up on my phone, courtesy of a friend who thought I should see what she's saying now. It was a glossy post from her agency's lifestyle page. Photo of her smiling with a new haircut, captioned with a line that read, "Choose better partners. Life's too short to carry someone else's weight." I didn't respond. Just deleted the text and slid my phone into the junk drawer with the batteries and dead lighters. By Tuesday, Tamsin Keene caught me at the hardware store. She worked the front desk at Bistro D, where I'd sketched a few nights back before everything fell apart. "I saw Drake in our lobby," she said, handing me a receipt. "Told a couple girls he upgraded his life and left baggage in last year." I believed it. That was Drake's kind of poetry. We didn't talk about it again. I went back to sanding trim in the hallway, and Mary showed up like she said she would. No greetings, just paint cans, a bucket of tools, and that steady, work-first silence she carried like armor. She taped off the corners and cut the edges with the focus of a surgeon. I followed behind, rolling walls, trying to match her pace. Her daughter and my son, by now they'd started calling each other that, argued in the next room about what kind of paint was best for clouds, oil or acrylic. Tabby insisted oil lasted longer. Lily said acrylics dried faster and didn't stink. Valeria brought lunch around noon, pierogi and soup in thermoses, and read to the kids while we finished the entryway. First in English, then in Ukrainian. Tabby listened like she was a coach explaining plays before a big game. The rhythm of it helped. No big conversations. Just the sound of brushes against walls, kids building a fort with drop cloths in the corner, and Valeria's calm voice floating through it all. That afternoon I got an email from Callista's lawyer asking me to return the shared wedding items. I stared at the list, flatware, guest book, a monogrammed cake knife, and laughed once hard. I boxed up what fit into a shoebox and dropped it at the post office. The rest stayed where it belonged, in my memory, where it couldn't be cleaned up or sold. Later I landed a small commission, 3 riverfront canvases for a lawyer's office in town. They weren't masterpieces, just scenes of dock lights and foggy rails, but they gave me a deadline and something to grind on at night when the house was too quiet. Painting cures more anger than talking ever could. Mary brought another batch of trade paint, matte finish, solid color, not cheap, but not flashy. I pulled out my wallet. She pushed my hand away. "You pay when it doesn't sting," she said. We didn't make eye contact, but the way she said it stuck with me. That night we sat on overturned buckets, sketching ideas for the mural. The blank wall in the hallway felt less like a problem and more like a dare. "Hands," Mary said. "At work, across a city block." "Lifting something?" I asked. She nodded once. "Something heavy." I grabbed a pencil and started blocking shapes. "No gold leaf," I said. "I'm not that sentimental." Mary laughed, just one quick, unfiltered laugh, and went back to sketching. That sound stayed in the air longer than it should have. Around midnight, Tamsin sent me a screenshot from one of Drake's workout reels, shirtless in front of a mirror, flexing with the caption, "Dead weight doesn't lift itself. Cut it off." I didn't open it. She followed up with, "Don't worry, the comments handled it for you." I didn't ask what they said. We ended that day with 2 coats on the living room walls, a working ceiling fan, and a heater that didn't trip the breaker when we plugged it in. Tabby and Lily had built a blanket fort between 2 sawhorses and fallen asleep with flashlights and crayons still in their hands. I lay down next to Tabby under 2 quilts Valeria had stitched herself. The house moaned in the wind like it always did, but the walls didn't creak as much as they had last week. I took that as a kind of agreement. In the kitchen, I found a glass jar of borscht in the fridge. A note in Valeria's sharp handwriting was taped to the lid. Heat low, patience high. It was good advice. For soup, for life, for everything. We got into a rhythm: scrape, prime, paint, eat, sleep, repeat. Nobody asked for more than they could give, and nobody gave less than they had. Some days that was the only kind of peace that mattered. It happened on a gray afternoon when the workday felt ordinary. Lily was stepping onto the porch with a paper cup of water when her knees buckled. She went down hard, forehead first, and didn't try to catch herself. Valeria's call came through seconds later, her voice calm but stretched tight like wire. "Martin," she said, "we are coming to you. Lily fell. She is burning up." By the time we reached St. Michael's, Lily's skin was hot and dry, her eyes unfocused. Mary carried her in without shaking. I followed, holding the door, telling myself to stay useful. Nurses moved fast. Forms slid across counters. A doctor with tired eyes pressed fingers to Lily's abdomen and listened to her breathing. "This is renal failure," he said, not lowering his voice. "We're talking transplant." Mary nodded once. No tears, no questions that wasted time. She squared her shoulders and asked what came next. Billing came next. Neve Barlow met us in a small office that smelled like toner and coffee. She laid the numbers out like a ruler on a desk, straight and cold. "For the surgical block and inpatient stay," she said, "you're looking north of $184,200 before rehab. That does not include donor listing or post-operative medications." Mary looked at the paper. I looked at Mary. I said, "I'll help." She turned to me and said it flat, not unkind. "Do not promise what hurts your boy." Then she thanked Neve for printing every line and asked for copies. Neve slid them across and said, "I'll be here when you're ready." Back at the house, the rooms felt louder than usual, like they knew something was wrong. Mary didn't sit down. She headed for the attic ladder and climbed first. I followed. Tobby trailed behind, trying jokes he didn't believe in. "If there's a ghost," he said, "I call dibs on naming it." We moved boxes and old tarps, dust puffing up with every step. My dad's old place held on to things the way some people do. Behind a loose plank near the eaves, Mary's hand stopped. "Here," she said. The plank came free. Behind it was a shallow niche with a folder and a sealed envelope. The handwriting on the envelope was neat and stubborn. My father's. I sat down on the attic floor and opened it. The letter was short and plain. "Martin, I sold the development outfit and put the money to work quietly. I didn't want noise. I wanted time. I invested with Troy Harris, who understands long seasons. Spend with purpose, not noise. He wrote about saving a kid at a lake once, a boy who'd gone under without a sound. Troy's son. He wrote that gratitude turns into action if you give it time." At the bottom was a number. I dialed it. The call rang once. "Martin," Troy said, like he'd been waiting years. "I'm glad you called." We talked for 40 minutes. He walked me through a portfolio like he was reading a grocery list. Bonds, index funds, 2 equity stakes, totaling over $6.3 million. I sat down harder, dust rising around me. "Your father trusted simple math and long seasons," Troy said. "He asked me to make sure you were ready before the numbers were." I thanked him. I stared at the beams. I could hear my dad's laugh in the dust. For once, money felt like a tool, not a target. I stood up, folded the letter, and went downstairs to where Mary was waiting by the kitchen sink. I held out the envelope. She read it once, then again, slow. "We call the hospital," I said. She nodded. I picked up the phone and dialed St. Michael's billing office. When Neve answered, I said my name and told her I was ready to clear the first hurdle. She didn't congratulate me. She didn't soften her voice. She just asked for confirmation details and started the process. I hung up, looked at Mary and said, "Lily's going to get the care she needs." She closed her eyes for 1 second, then opened them and said, "Then we keep moving." I grabbed my jacket, folded the letter into my wallet, and headed for the door to go back to the hospital. I read the last line of my dad's letter again that night, sitting at the kitchen table with my elbows in paint flecks and sawdust. Make things better, not louder. It felt like the only instruction that mattered. I called Mary first. She picked up on the second ring. "I'm covering Lily's care," I said. "No strings, no pressure, no questions later." Silence held for half a breath. Then, "You're sure?" "I'm sure." Then I called Valeria. She didn't ask how, just said, "You do this like a man who builds, not one who brags. That is good." The next morning, Troy met me at a quiet coffee place off County Road 42. No tie, just a heavy binder and the same calm voice he'd had on the phone. We found a booth near the window. He set the binder down and walked me through the details again. No big speeches, just clean numbers and signed instructions. "Your father left a liquid account," he said, flipping to a tab with my name on it. "Same-day access. Roughly 1.2 million in cash equivalents. Long-term assets stay untouched unless you ask." "I'm not asking," I said. "Not yet." We went through protocols, security verifications, ID scans, digital access codes, everything above board, clean, tight. Troy didn't push, didn't sell. He just made sure I knew where the lines were drawn. At the hospital, Neve Barlow was ready. She walked me into a billing office the size of a broom closet and pulled up Lily's chart on a secure screen. "We'll need $62,400 to clear initial charges and activate her listing," she said. "That gets her on the matchboard and covers current inpatient care. The rest can be scheduled." I nodded. "Wire it now." She didn't blink. Just double-checked routing details, confirmed release forms, and tapped the keys like she was dialing coordinates. The whole thing took maybe 12 minutes. When she finished, I asked, "Will that make a difference in how fast she gets seen?" Neve looked at me straight. "Yes, it already has." Later that week, Troy and I met again, this time in a shared workspace he rented by the courthouse. No noise, just white walls, one table, and a corkboard with sticky notes lined up like chess pieces. We built a donor-advised fund for pediatric transplants in Lily's name. Simple structure. No fluff. Then Troy suggested we add a small scholarship for art teachers, quiet professionals, he called them, under Valeria's name. "She'd hate that," I said, smiling a little. "She'd use it," he replied. I signed the paperwork. At night, after Tabi was asleep and the house had settled into its usual groans, I pulled out my brushes and started painting again. 3 commissions, all city scenes. Brick buildings, alley lights, sidewalks full of movement. I lost myself in the lines and finished all 3 in under 2 weeks. Sold them for $7,900 total, all above asking. It wasn't the money. It was having something that came straight from my hands again. In the middle of all this, I hired a family lawyer. Quiet guy, older, smelled like files and peppermint. We did the divorce exactly as policy required. The prenup held like concrete. Helen's emails got shorter with every reply. By the time the paperwork was ready, she was signing without punctuation. Tamsin caught me outside the diner one night. She leaned against her car and grinned. "You hear about Drake?" I shook my head. I shook. "Showed up late to a private tasting at Trissini's. Got turned away in front of a couple influencers. I heard the hostess said, 'You're not on the list.' I didn't say anything. Just thanked her for the update and kept walking. Lily went through weeks of tests, labs, scans, evaluations. 1 day up, 2 days down. Her name started moving on the transplant board, slow but steady. Every small number was a win. Tabi drew her a comic strip on notebook paper, a red-caped superhero whose shield was shaped like a kidney. Lily taped it to her hospital wall with surgical tape and told the nurse, "He's not fast, but he's brave." Mary kept working on the house while juggling appointments. Sometimes she let herself lean a little, sit for 5 minutes with a coffee, and not talk. Then she stood straight again and got back to work. One morning I fixed the crooked cabinet door that had been sticking since the day we moved in. Valeria came in with her tea, stood beside me, and watched without comment. When I stepped back, she nodded. "You remind me of my late husband. He fixed things too. Stubborn is a language. You're fluent now." I didn't answer, just handed her the screwdriver and smiled. The nights changed. I slept better. Not deeper, just cleaner, like my head finally had room to rest. It's strange how rest shows up once you decide where you stand. Quietly, without telling anyone, I paid off the old property taxes my father had missed his last year. Just under $8,000, backdated. It felt less like correcting a mistake and more like sealing a promise. The house creaked in the right places now. I took that as agreement. Jasper Vale showed up on a Wednesday. Beat-up camera bag slung over one shoulder, sunglasses pushed too far back on his head. He stood in our doorway like a man expecting applause just for arriving. "I want to see Lily more," he said. "She needs her dad." Mary didn't flinch. She stepped out onto the porch, arms crossed, calm but solid. "You'll see her under supervision. No promises. You show up on time, or you don't see her at all." Jasper opened his mouth, then closed it. He handed over a boxed doll, fancy, expensive, still in a boutique bag, the kind of thing that screamed Instagram guilt. Valeria stepped in behind Mary and took the bag. "She doesn't need that," she said, holding it like trash. "Next time, bring her a library card." He nodded once, took the hint. The mural started to take shape that weekend. Mary laid out the grid lines in chalk, taped off the corners, and handed me a roller. I followed her lead. Base coat first, then neutral gradients, hands taking form in the center like they were lifting a city block together. Arcs of motion, colors that moved like work did. We tucked names into the corners. My dad's, Valeria's maiden name, Troy's son. Lily added the name of the nurse who gave her extra ice chips. Tobby added Coach Val next to a painted pair of sneakers. It was their wall as much as ours. Somewhere between coats, between brush strokes and taped edges, I found myself watching Mary differently, the way she measured space, the way she made no noise unless it meant something. She wasn't a distraction, she was gravity, and I felt pulled. After we hung the last door in the hallway, hands still smudged with primer, she kissed me. No speech, no warning. Just stepped in, met me halfway, and let it land. It wasn't a fireworks kind of kiss. It was the kind that says, "You've earned this. So have I." The next day, Helen tried to reach me from a blocked number. I didn't pick up. I forwarded the missed call and her 3 cryptic texts to my lawyer. Roderick sent an email asking if we could wrap this with civility. I replied once and signed what was fair. Nothing more. Troy met me at the same coffee spot off County Road 42 and walked me through a conservative long-term plan. That word hit right. Conservative. Not exciting. Not shiny. Just solid. Safe. Built for staying power. Tobby and Lily painted their handprints near the base of the mural. Tobby looked at me while the paint dried and said, "Team rule, no smudging." I nodded. Deal. I named the donor fund after my father, Gregory's Hands, but left my own name off the plaque. Dad would have liked that. No speeches, just steady work. Mary and I started talking about money like grown-ups. Not lovers, not dreamers. Just 2 people building. We talked about her clients, her rates, where her work came from and where it needed to go. She asked about my portfolio, about index funds and real estate tax windows. We sat across the kitchen table, pen in hand, not flirting, just trading facts with respect. Jasper started showing up consistently. Saturday mornings, 30 minutes early, no speeches, just a knock, a thank you, and a small gift, a notebook, a pack of pencils, one time a used sketchbook with good paper. He even started sending small child support transfers every other Friday. Modest amounts, but steady. That mattered more than the size. Mary logged it all. Visits, receipts, calendar dates. Jasper signed the visitation log each time without being asked. No attitude, just quiet effort. Valeria watched him from the window sometimes, never said much. One afternoon, while we were cleaning brushes outside, she said, "You stand different now, like a man who finally put his bags down." She was right. I hadn't even noticed, but my shoulders were looser, my voice sharper. Not out of anger, just settled. That night, while Tobby and Lily played cards in the living room, I caught myself humming. Nothing in particular. Just a sound coming up from my chest, while I cleaned a brush under warm water. And that's when I knew I was done living in reaction. I didn't need to fix the past anymore. I was too busy building something better. At 6:12 a.m., my phone lit up with Niamh Barlow's name. The wind outside slammed against the windows like it was late for something. "Martin, we have a compatible donor," she said. "Are the funds ready?" "They're ready," I told her. I sat up, already reaching for the folder on the counter. Within 10 minutes I was logged in, verifying routing, confirming transfer totals. $121,800 for the operation. $18,300 reserved for medications, recovery, and post-op checkups. Niamh reviewed the digits out loud, twice, like a field surgeon calling coordinates. "I'll send confirmation once the wire hits," she said. "Prep begins in 90 minutes. Mary didn't say anything when I told her. She just nodded, squeezed my wrist, and went to pack Lily's overnight bag. We got to the hospital early, walked the long hallway past the surgical wing, and waited in a room that had too many pastel paintings of flowers. The colors didn't calm me. They never do. Valeria sat on my left, hands wrapped around her cross, whispering in Ukrainian under her breath. Her lips barely moved. Mary sat on my right, still and locked in. I pulled a pen from my coat and sketched Lily's favorite dog on a napkin. Floppy ears, lopsided smile. Tabby said it looked too calm, so I added a cape and lightning bolt tail. Lily saw it right before they rolled her away and laughed. She called it Super Kidney Dog. The surgeon came out 5 hours later. Cap off, mask loose. He gave a thumbs up before he even reached us. "It went well," he said. "Textbook." Mary leaned into me. Not a fall. Just one long second of weight shared. Then she straightened up and walked toward Lily's room without looking back. Lily woke up groggy, cranky, and asking for fries. That's how you know kids are okay. 2 weeks passed with stitches, meds, slow walks, and hospital cartoons. Lily's stats improved fast. Her appetite came back. Her sarcasm returned. Mary looked like she hadn't slept in a year but still showed up to every meeting sharp and clean. That Friday we finished grouting the kitchen sink. Nothing fancy, just a wide basin, clean lines. Tabby and Lily painted a paper banner in the living room while Mary wiped down tools. "Sit," I told her, pointing to the stool by the sink. 5 minutes. That's the rule. She sat, wiped her palms on her jeans, and looked around the kitchen like it was a stranger she wanted to trust. Tabby and Lily ran in holding the banner. 3 feet wide, crooked letters painted in blue and green. "Will you marry him?" They spelled Mary right. The pun was not lost on anyone. I didn't make a speech. I didn't kneel. I just pulled the ring from my pocket. A simple one, brushed silver, no shine, and set it on the counter. "Yes," she said before I could open my mouth. She smiled with her eyes, and that was more than enough. A week later, I got cornered at a gallery opening by Helen. She showed up in a long coat and confidence like it still fit. Word had gotten around about the donor fund, probably through a mutual contact in St. Michael's marketing team. "You know," she said, brushing imaginary lint off her sleeve, "if you're thinking of scaling this fund, I might have ideas. PR could really shape its message." I stared at her. "I'm not doing this for exposure," I said. "And I don't need a publicist to do private work." Her smile tightened. She turned without saying goodbye. Drake tried filming near the entrance. Tamsin, who was managing the event that night, spotted him right away and crossed the room like she'd been waiting for it. "No recording without consent," she said, calm and sharp. "House rules," he argued. She pointed to the sign near the front door. Then she walked him out and gave me a nod like, "You're good." The divorce became official on May 14th. No alimony, no claims. Just paper and signatures filed in triplicate. My lawyer sent me a scan. I didn't print it. I donated a dialysis chair to Lily's unit a week later. Asked Niamh to process it under the pediatric fund. No donor name attached. She glanced at me, nodded once, and didn't say anything more. That night, back at the house, Mary fell asleep on my shoulder. The old couch creaked but held. The drywall was done, the wiring solid, the furnace finally dependable. But what made the place feel finished was her breath slowing beside me and the sound of kids laughing down the hall. A month later, Mary and I headed downtown for a meeting with a new client, a mural project tied to a salon rebrand. Big space, good visibility, and enough of a budget to matter. Tamsin Keene was at the host stand when we walked in. She didn't blink, just leaned in as she grabbed 2 menus and said, "Good to see you on the other side." We followed her past a row of full booths and halfway through the dining room when I spotted them. Helen and Drake, seated with a woman I recognized from a local gig board. Mid-40s, sharp bob, nice shoes. One of those salon owners who made her brand part of her identity. Helen caught my eye. She didn't flinch, just flashed a smile that never made it to her eyes and said, loud enough for nearby tables, "Hope you're finally doing okay, Martin." I didn't stop walking, just nodded once and said, "We're fine," then kept going. Mary didn't miss a beat. She stepped up beside me, steady as ever, and looked the table over with professional ease. "We build things that don't need a ring light," she said, then turned to Tamsin. "Thanks for seating us quickly." Tamsin smiled and guided us to a window booth, 2 tables ahead of theirs. The salon owner watched the whole thing, her gaze flicking from me to Mary to Helen, eyebrows barely raised. She didn't speak much during the rest of their meal. That told me more than if she'd said anything at all. A week later, Mary got the call. That same salon owner wanted her crew for 2 locations, interior and exterior touch-ups, plus a full concept mural inside the flagship. Said she liked how we handled ourselves. I didn't ask what happened to Helen's pitch. I heard through a mutual it unraveled fast. I didn't gloat, didn't lift a finger, just sent Mary the budget outline and helped her prep invoices. Later that week, Troy and I met for coffee to finalize next year's fund cycle. As he closed the binder, he said, "Your father left a handwritten note in his file. Wanted me to share it once you'd handled things clean." "What did it say?" I asked. Troy tapped the folder. Just one line. "Teach him to leave without a mess." I carried that sentence home in my back pocket. Didn't say it out loud. Just kept it where I could feel the weight. Back at the house, we finished the mural. 2 hands, lifting a city block. Powerful and simple, painted across the west wall like it had always been waiting for us. Tobby and Lily added their handprints in the bottom corner, signed their names, and dated it in thick black strokes. "This part's forever," Tobby said. "Right?" I nodded. "That's the point." Jasper texted that night. Just a short message. "Thanks for letting me be in Lily's life without drama." I replied, "Keep showing up. That's the price." Out in the yard, Valeria stood with her arms folded, watching the mural in the fading light. Her voice was soft but sure. "That wall will outlive us," she said. I believed her. That night I slept hard. No tossing, no dreams, no echoes of the old dining room or the sound of my name getting used like a punchline. In the morning, I made pancakes for the kids. I got more paint on the spatula than on the wall, but no one complained. Lily asked for chocolate chips in hers. Tobby wanted extra syrup. Mary leaned against the counter, sipping coffee, pretending not to smile. The house was warm. The roof didn't leak. And for once, nothing in the room needed fixing. We hosted Sunday dinner once the last of the dust finally settled. The house was still old, still creaked in the corners, but it didn't pretend to be anything else anymore. We kept the original dining table, sanded it down, oiled the wood until the grain showed its scars. It felt right to eat on something that had lived a little. Valeria arrived first with a tray of pierogi wrapped in foil and a look that said she expected silence while people chewed. She watched Tobby load his plate and said, "You eat like a proper man now." He laughed and asked for more before he'd even swallowed. Lily claimed the head of the table without asking permission and announced she was officially bored with hospitals. Mary kissed her forehead and said, "Good. Be bored for 50 years. Lily grinned like she'd just been handed a contract. Troy showed up with a bottle of ginger ale and a thin folder tucked under his arm. He set the folder on the counter and didn't open it. "Paper can wait till Monday," he said. I nodded and slid it into a drawer. We'd signed at City Hall the Friday before. No crowd. 2 witnesses. A quick handshake from the clerk. Then we came straight back to the house to finish the trim in the hallway. That felt more like a celebration than any dinner could. I carved the roast while Mary served. Valeria corrected us every time we stacked plates wrong. The kids tried to teach me a card game I kept losing on purpose just to hear them argue about rules. The noise filled the room without bouncing off sharp edges. At dusk, we stepped outside to look at the mural. The west wall caught the last light, and the painted hands glowed like they were still lifting something heavy. I rested my palm against the brick and told Tobby that grown-ups also need reminders of what their hands can still do. Jasper dropped Lily off with a new watercolor pad and a small box of brushes. He didn't come in, just waved, said goodbye, and left before dessert like he promised. Boundaries held. That mattered. During coffee, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. 3 words. "You look well." I didn't need to ask who it was. I deleted it and reached for another roll instead. A minute later, Tamsin sent a photo from the restaurant, our mural mock-up framed and hanging in a client's office. "Told you," she wrote. I sent a thumbs up and put the phone face down. We lined the plates down the center of the table, messy and uneven. No place cards, no speeches, just people reaching, passing bread, talking over each other like it was normal. I raised my glass with ginger ale and said the one thing that had settled into me for good. Home is where people show up and keep showing up. Nobody clapped, nobody argued. They just nodded and kept eating. That was the whole point. Not the money, not the paint, just us, choosing the work and choosing each other, week after week. Hey, real quick before you scroll, have you ever had to rebuild your whole life after someone blindsided you? If this story hit close to home, tap the hype button to help it reach more people who need to hear it. And if you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like. Just one click makes a huge difference for us. Drop a comment too, even if it's just powerful story or your own take. I read everyone. Love you guys.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.